Alright guys, welcome back. This is the 1957 Longines I picked up on eBay. This has the 19AS automatic movement in it. It's the sweep second version of the 19A, which is a sub-second version. This is 10K gold plated, gold filled. I think that just means double gold plated. It's pretty nice. The dial definitely has some tropical damage, was what they'd call it. Looks like it was hard to wind because the bezel wasn't on correctly. Go ahead and get this movement out of here. Check it out. Okay. So yeah, it seems to be moving fine now that it's out of the case. Let's go ahead and get these hands off. I need to get a new set of levers. I think I'm going to order that next. So I put the plastic there to keep me from scratching the dial. If I had a better set of polished hand levers, I could probably get away with not using plastic, but it would be a lot safer. So these hands are kind of dirty. We'll clean those up at the end. Let's go ahead and get these dial screws out. This dial screws hold against the feet on the back of the dial. It'll hold the dial on. You could definitely break one if you tried to pry or bend the dial. The dial looks to be original to me. It does have some weird marking on the back, but so we're going to take this dial washer off. That just separates the dial from the hour wheel here. The hour wheel looks to be in pretty good shape. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and get this cannon pinion off. The cannon pinion is what drives the minute wheel. It looks to be in pretty good shape also. Let's go ahead and flip this movement over. You look at the back side. Here I'm going to be taking this rotor off. I struggled quite a bit on this movement at first, and it's really just the screwdrivers I have. They're not sharp enough, and they're kind of a lower quality. Halfway through this video, I bought new screwdrivers. I actually got a lot of new tools during the process of this video. You'll just have to wait and see what that is. But the screwdrivers, I ordered a better set so I can more easily take this movement apart. I got stuck on several things while working on this movement. It's what took me so long. I've never worked on an automatic this design before. It took me a little bit to figure it out. Plus, I was waiting on some parts. A lot of these screws were long and felt like they were all the way unthreaded and then weren't. So I had to come back in with the screwdriver and loosen them up a little bit more. So here is the plate coming off here for the automatic works. I could have taken this, I guess, bridge off here that holds the spring in, that holds this piece here. I didn't know that until later, after looking at it. And because this video took months to make, not because of the complexity of the movement, just because of parts and other things going on, I had it apart for a while, and it took me a little bit to get it back together because I had to look at pictures, and that's why I always take pictures. But I had this all movement all the way apart and didn't remember exactly how all the automatic works went back together. So here I'm going to take these screws out of the main plate here, or main bridge for the train of wheels. There they are again, sticking in. So I come back in with the screwdriver and loosen that up a little bit more. I guess this one I decided to just spin it out with the tweezers. Alright, let's get a good look at this. I do notice this 19AS isn't as decorated as the ones I've seen online around the outside. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I couldn't find much information on this. It's the Longines-Wittnauer American side, so it's not actually Swiss made. It's an American watch, made by Longines, which is pretty interesting. There's not a lot of information on them. Here's all the wheels coming out. Here's the escape wheel coming out. I'm checking for any damage. I'm looking for bent or mushroomed pivots, damaged teeth, bent wheels, anything abnormal. If it doesn't look perfect, I'll try to fix it, but most of the stuff in this watch was pretty good. This is the ratchet wheel. It's what holds the power in. So when you have a power reserve, the ratchet wheel ratchets against the click, and this right here is the click spring, and it doesn't allow the barrel arbor to spin or forcibly unwind quickly. It has to unwind through the train of wheels. But yeah, this spring here is known to fly across the room. That's why I always shove something down on there so it can't. So go ahead and take this barrel bridge screws out here. And I lost some footage, so you won't see me take everything apart. You might not see me lubricate everything, but I think for the most part, a lot of the footage is here. I did lose some. I had a corrupt file on my microscope. So here we go. I think this is the last screw coming out of the main, or the barrel bridge here. There they go, sticking again. I don't ever have that issue with most movements. There's something about that. Look how long that screw is. So now it's just stuck on the setting lever screw there. So the center sweep seconds pinion is in there, and the crown wheel is in there. I don't have any footage taking that apart. It is apart when I put it back together. This is the center wheel. It looks to be in good shape. The pivot is a little bit, it needs some polishing. I don't have the tool to do that yet, but I will. I will have that. Been thinking about buying a lathe. The tool for that is actually it's like Jacot, something like that. Jacot. They're pretty expensive for polishing those pivots. I've read that you can do it on a lathe. Actually, have some books that will explain that a lot more in depth, as well as oiling practices. And okay, here's the balance coming out. Another long screw. It's like twice the length of what I'm used to. So sometimes these bridges don't want to come up, and they've got little slots you can stick the screwdrivers under, and it'll help you lift it up. So here I'm going to go ahead and take the balance out, and you can see that the pallet fork and pallet bridge are still in the plate. So here I'm going to inspect the hairspring, the impulse jewel, just the balance wheel in general. It's easier to just bring it up under the microscope to check it out. It all looks okay. The jewels in the train wheel bridge, they all look good. So this is the barrel. I'm going to go ahead and take the main spring out. And this cap here comes off. You just push on it from the back side. So it's awfully dirty in there. That's pretty greasy. I wouldn't say it's over greased. It's just hasn't been serviced in a while. I had some issues getting this spring out of here, and you can see that I couldn't get the arbor out either. So I take the spring out with the arbor in the spring. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I didn't lose it, so. I did break the spring, but I had a new one. I was waiting on a mainspring. So the mainspring is getting replaced in this watch. So you kind of want to just work it back and forth. You don't want to let it come out really fast, or it will damage it, or fly across the room, or hurt you. So here next, we're going to be taking the setting lever spring out. This just holds tension against the two positions where the crown is either wind or set. It allows it's kind of what you feel when the crown pops out when you pull on it. And it holds several things in place here. First being that wheel under there, that's the minute wheel. It's used with the setting wheel here, and when you're in the setting mode, it will rotate the cannon pinion and set the minute hand. So here's the setting wheel, and it's tapered. It can only go in one way. Alright, halfway through the video? No. Here's the new screwdrivers I got. A lot nicer than what I had. I actually had to buy them because I could not get these screws out of this pallet bridge. And these screwdrivers made easy work of it. My other set just could not grip, no matter how sharp I had them. These are the tiniest screws. There's the pallet fork bridge. Just inspecting it. Pallet fork itself, checking out the, make sure the pallet stones aren't misaligned. There's no damage on the teeth. Well, teeth. No damage on the surface on the face. Now, if you haven't seen this yet, this might give you a hint as to what the other tool is that I bought. So, the method of cleaning I was doing wasn't working for me. So I got this. So I could put all these bigger parts down into this tray. They're one at a time, just kind of figuring out where I want to put things. This is the first time I've used it. And then I put all the smaller stuff, the wheels, everything up here up top. And it's got this little mesh top lid that goes down here. And that piece goes into this watch cleaning machine. This is a L&R Master 1948, I believe it was. I had to rewire a lot of the 120 control circuit in it. But it still needs some lubrication on that slide rail, but we're gonna check it out. So here it's got a potentiometer that allows me to set the speed that I want to rotate. So I'm gonna rotate it in this L&R cleaning solution for 5 minutes, and then it goes into the L&R rinse solution for 5 minutes, and then it goes into L&R rinse solution again in the next jar for 5 minutes, and then the heater for 5 minutes. I can show a process of that on the next watch that goes more in depth if anybody's interested. So you see me lubricating the sidewall of the barrel bridge there. The barrel. And here's the new mainspring I bought. You notice it's for a 19A. Well, the 19AS mainspring is a lot more expensive than the 19A mainspring, and they're the same part number. As a matter of fact, they're very similar movements. So I ordered the 19A mainspring for about a fifth of the price, and it seems to work okay. It fit right into the barrel. I don't have any issues with power reserve so far, and it doesn't slip. It catches the arbor fine. So that's a win in my book. So when you install these new springs, you want to install them with the color side up. That'll be the correct winding direction. Now press this arbor down in there, put the cap back on. Get this cheap little tool I bought here, and just press it until it's pressed down in there. You can hear it pop, and you're looking for it to be flush. You don't want the cap to stick out. If the cap sticks out, it'll rub and it will have low amplitude. So here you'll see me using some HP 1300 on the center wheel. I like to use the medium. You know, it's kind of medium here. This is 9501, the blue stuff. That's a thicker grease, I would say. It's probably the thickest grease that you'll find in most of these watch videos. But that's 9501. So here is the barrel bridge coming back into play. And we're going to find a problem. Just checking to make sure the pivots are lined up on the center wheel before I press down. Oh, I used my finger there on the movement. I should not have done that. Okay, looks to be set down properly. Check this out. That is way too much slop. So we're going to fix that. And here's how we're going to do it. I've got this staking set here, and I've fitted it with a flat base on the bottom and a rounded top that is just slightly smaller than the diameter of the hole at the base, but larger at the top. And what you'll want to do is slowly tap it and spin it in circles until you feel like you've shrunk it. You don't want to hit it very hard at all. You just, tap, 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 spin, tap, 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 spin, tap, 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 spin. And that'll allow you to close that hole in a conformed way. And it will shrink it. And if you go too far, you can always use a broaching set or some kind of file and open it back up. But I just like to go slow with it so I don't go too far. And here you can see, shouldn't have done that either. Don't stick screwdrivers in holes and spin them like that because you could have damaged the threads. But like I said, that's way tighter. And I actually do end up tightening it just a hair bit more. I don't show it on camera. Um, but you'll see me wiggle it with the tweezers here, yeah. So that's about right. That's about the kind of slop that you'd want. And it's spinning freely, so no more issues there. This is also HP 1300 going here. 9010. This is the sweep second center pinion. It's what runs the seconds hand. This is a spring that holds it in. And one of the smallest screws known to man. That was also 1300. And this is the click. This is what ratchets against the ratchet wheel that keeps the power from forcibly removing itself from the watch. So go ahead and tighten this click screw down. This is also HP 1300 here. I'm just lubricating the surface where the barrel will ride. Sorry, the ratchet wheel will ride, and also where this click spring will slide back and forth. So here you see me putting this plastic lever down so the spring doesn't fly, and prying it into location. Sorry, my air conditioner kicked back on, so if you can hear that in the background, that's what that is. Um, yeah, I also saw myself touch the movement there again. I do wash my hands before, but you should wear finger cots when working with clean movements because the oils in your fingers can damage these parts. Although this watch is going to stay in my collection, I still should have been more careful. I don't have the right size finger cots, and they kind of cut the circulation off. Now here I'm trying to see if this spring is lining up with the click correctly, and I'm pushing the click the wrong direction because I didn't realize that. So the spring is in there right, but the click works in the ratcheting direction of the opposite of what I thought it did. Uh, like I said, I had this watch apart for a long time before I got back to it. Here you'll see, again, trying to push it the wrong way. And then I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So this is the way it ratchets. So the ratchet wheel would turn clockwise. Now this is just a little bit more 1300 here, where the ratchet wheel is going to slide. And there's a square hole in the ratchet wheel and a square pivot on the top of the arbor. And those have to line up. That's what holds the gear to the barrel. So if you try to tighten this without having something to hold it, it'll just spin because the barrel rotates. So this is the escape wheel going back in. Get it there. There we go. Okay. Okay, this is the fourth wheel going back in, and it aligns with the escape wheel. And then this is the third wheel going back in, and it meshes with the fourth wheel and the center wheel. And on this watch, it meshes with the sweep seconds center pinion that goes through the center wheel. Okay, so now I'm going to be very careful and try and set this bridge down almost exactly where it goes. Haven't quite got this down yet, but everything takes practice. So we're going to get up close and look at these pivots in these jewels. What I like to do is use a spare oiler, and that way I'm not risking anything by shoving tweezers in here, but I'll just kind of line these pivots up with the microscope with an oiler. And this has been the best method for me personally. Sometimes the bridges just drop right in and they're good to go. Um, Sometimes they're really relatively easy to get in, like this one, or sometimes you'll fight it forever. I think the more you do a specific movement type, the easier it gets. I've never worked on this one specifically before, but if I did it again, I might be able to do it easier. And then, 5 or 10 more times, and it'd just be even easier every time. One thing I need to do is hold pressure on this uh, train wheel bridge while I'm putting these screws in. Because what happened was I bumped it and it knocked one of the pivots out. I like to just slightly start the screws and then recheck the pivots to make sure they're going to spin, and then uh, tighten. That way I don't break anything. You can always double check it under the microscope. So this is after the balance has been cleaned. This is before the pallet's been cleaned. So go ahead and dip that stuff into one dip here. So this is coming out of the one dip solution. And the one dip is good for the pallets because of the shellac that holds the jewels in it. IPA or some of the other stuff might melt the shellac. So here's the pallet bridge going on. And I like to kind of line it up and just wiggle it back and forth. And just watch that jewel hole, and you'll see when the pivot falls in. Just keep putting pressure on it side to side, and it looks like it's in there. Okay. Some more of the smallest screws known to man. These things are tiny. This is one of the smaller movements I've worked on. It was difficult, challenging for sure. I learned a lot about it. Could have done it better, um, but next time. So here I'm putting some wind into the mainspring, and it'll go through the train of wheels down here to the pallet. And I'm checking to make sure it flicks back and forth freely. And this one does, so we'll go ahead and get this balance assembly in here. And I like to push the pallet out of the way, line up the impulse jewel with where it's going to go, and then rotate the movement into the balance wheel. That's been the best way I've seen. And then sometimes you can just pick the movement up and it'll start running. It'll just drop the pivots right where they need to be. And this is a huge screw. So some of the screws are tiny and some of them are extremely long for what they're doing. 90-10, this is all 90-10 going here. 90-10 here. This probably didn't need to be 90-10. That probably could have been something thicker, but it was already on my oiler. Okay, so the jewel settings. I've done this before on video. This basically has to be done under a microscope anyway. So what you want to do is just use a spare oiler and pop these springs, the single block spring, out of its retainer. Be very careful because they break. They're like microscopic. Stick some Rodico down in there and it'll lift it right up out of there. That one actually didn't bring the bottom jewel setting. I just got the top jewel. Okay, got it. All right, so this is also going to be dipped into the one dip solution and agitated with air. And fling it. You want a singular drop of oil. It's hard to see because it's clear. You want a singular drop of oil right in the center, and then you can bring the setting over to it, and it'll suck that jewel right up to it. Now this goes back in, and you want to be careful. Line it up with the pivots. You can set it down on the pivot while it's running. You'll see, okay, there it dropped into place. So now this spring, you just want to get it back down into its retainer holes. I still just use an oiler for this. I tried tweezers before. I've broke them. I've accidentally ripped them out. I've had to replace them. And replacing them is not that big of a deal, but it's just better to not have to. Make sure it's set. Make sure it's in there. You don't want that coming out. Now the other side of the watch has the same thing. On the other side of the balance, there's another one of these. And we will get to that one. Okay. So this is 9010. This is the back side of the train wheels. 9010 there, 9010 there. I got a book for, I got it right here. Let's see what it says. The Practical Guide to Modern Watch Oiling. That's 9010 also. That's going to help me learn how to better oil these movements after I service them, because I know I'm using too much, maybe using the wrong oils in some places, but I'm still learning. So this is 9501. Basically, it's the thickest grease that goes on here. This is 1300, and then 1300 here, and there. Cleaning some of the excess off. I did put too much there, so Rodico will clean it right up off there. Okay, so watch this. And it's gone. Okay. I never found that. I actually had a replacement. This came out of a NH35 Seiko movement. It fit in this 57 Longines movement. They might be standard. I don't know. But it's the same process as the other one. Dip it in one dip, one singular dot of oil, and then you want to be very careful with these springs. Yeah, I looked for that thing for hours. No idea. I found the jewel setting, the gold piece, but I never found the cap jewel. It's gone. I believe this is 1300 here. Yeah. And then this is the minute wheel. Now this is tapered. This is the setting wheel. So the tapered side goes down. That way I can engage with the sliding clutch easier, or at all. I didn't show it, but I had the clutch lever in the wrong spot, so I moved that to the right location. I also put the setting lever in off camera. Here I'm just making sure that it's gonna mesh well. This is 1300 going here and 1300 here, because that's gonna ride on the back side of the setting lever spring. Just taking some of the excess off. I put too much down. Now this is the setting lever, and I put the screw in on the back side off camera, I believe, just because you have to hold it at an awkward angle. This is 9501 going on the pressure point between the clutch lever and the setting lever. It's a high friction point, metal on metal. taking some of the excess. Now this is going on the winding pinion here. And this is the setting lever spring going back in, and it holds in all this stuff really. The minute wheel, the setting wheel, and the springs. Tiniest screws known to man. Um, I just got this one set in there, got it started, and then lined the setting position on the spring onto the lever, and then was able to rotate this other position so I could get the second screw in. You can see me just kind of tweaking it. At this point, I don't have the screw in on the back side of the setting lever, so it was a little bit difficult. Okay. So yeah, here's me setting the second screw into the setting lever spring. I had that one loose so I could rotate it. And here's some 9501, and that's going on the setting lever position where it clicks back and forth on the spring, just because that's a high friction area. You don't want to put too much down there, but just enough. So this is part of the automatic works. This one actually rotates the ratchet wheel. Not sure what this piece is called, but it's what the automatic works is like intermediate between the automatic works and the ratchet wheel. So here you can see me taking this plate off, and so I could get this spring out of here. And once I did that, I realized, well, I can just set this plate onto the bridge and then put this cantilever system in there after. So here you'll see me just setting the automatic works bridge down, making sure I have it lined up. And it did not want to go on there right away. And there's really only 2 pivots it has to line up with. Maybe even just 1, plus the alignment dowels. Here I'm making sure that this wheel is up against the side of the movement so it's not below, because if it was below it wouldn't catch. Another very long screw, but this one makes sense that it's long because it's holding a bridge to a plate. So go ahead and get this screw tightened down. Like I said, this is the first automatic, not the first automatic movement I've serviced, but the first one of this design. I've never seen any of them like this before. It's a pretty cool little design once I figured out how it worked. It took me a little bit to understand. There's a lot of springs and a lot of rotating parts. But basically this little lever holds tension on that cantilever system, and it's got a pivot point right there. And this wheel goes in and out, and the lever on this side rotates this wheel that I'm oiling here. And I believe that's 1300, and this is 1300. And that's 1300 there. But this wheel gets pushed by the rotor. There's a cam style lobe on the back side of the rotor that pushes that wheel. And that wheel, when it gets pushed in, pushes that other wheel, that intermediate wheel, and turns the ratchet. And then when it comes back spring tensioned, it pulls that intermediate wheel and rotates the ratchet. So no matter which way it's going, it's winding the watch. And no matter which way the rotor spins, the cam hits that wheel and winds the watch. It's a pretty cool design. So this is the plate that holds the spring in. I tried to install this several times before taking this plate off. I didn't realize that the plate was supposed to come off to get the piece out of the center. go. Get this tight. So here's the cam that I'm talking about on the back side of the rotor. And that little brass piece, when it rotates, it pushes on this wheel and it winds the watch through spring tension. Uh, it is a pretty cool design. So I slide this over its center post and press it down. I can't get it quite lined up. Now, I made a mistake here. I should have pulled this wheel out slightly, and then the rotor would have fell down into place. But instead, I do what you're not supposed to do, and I forced the rotor, or forced this piece under the rotor, which pulled the rotor down, which jolts this wheel, and you'll see it once I do this. Um, right, coming up. Yeah, right there. So it jolted that wheel, and it wouldn't go down because the wheel was in the way. Um, but it's okay. It didn't break anything. So get that tight, and here you can see that cam is riding on that wheel, and when I rotated it, it's spinning and pushing that out, and then it's rotating that intermediate wheel, which in turn winds the watch. 1300 here, Cannon pinion. Some more 1300. This is where the hour wheel rides. Don't want that grinding away on the bottom of that. So go ahead and get the dial back on. I'm not going to do any cleaning to this dial. You can see there are some scratch marks there where the hands have been pulled off before. I get this set and tighten the dial screws off camera. Here you can see me, I'm just running IPA across these hands, just trying to clean them up a little bit. I don't know how thick the plating is or what, so I really didn't want to mess with taking anything off, so just a little bit of IPA. Setting the hands on, making sure they're all aligned. It's going to hit the hour markers correctly, making sure that they're not going to touch each other and stop the watch. We go, and they are lining up pretty good on the hour. Here's the seconds hand going on. And just like that, the hands are set, and they're not going to touch each other. Let's see about that. Oh yeah, plenty of room. Okay, let's see what we're at. Now I see this regulator set all the way to plus. So let's see what we're running at. Yeah, so our beat error is pretty off. We don't get an amplitude reading. And yeah, 357 seconds fast. Let's see if we can do something about that. I did check this watch in multiple positions and had similar readings everywhere, so I didn't record everything. I just left the one in here. So there's the first adjustment. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, no amplitude still shown. That could just be the time grapher I'm using isn't picking up the amplitude for some reason. It looks like it's running pretty good. The beat error is still pretty high. I'm going to make a slight adjustment on that to see if we can get it closer. So fixing the beat error on this watch is going to be a task. If we have any issues with it not keeping time or not wanting to start back up, I'll come back and adjust the beat error. I'll make a video on that too. But so far, it seems to be running pretty good. I've been wearing it for a few hours. Here's that notch I was talking about. So this notch wasn't lined up at the beginning, and it was keeping it from winding. So when I bought this watch, they said it wouldn't wind. It was because the bezel wasn't on correctly. It was rubbing against the stem. So we're gonna get some polish into this watch, and after service, regulation, and polishing, I put it on this band. I'm not happy with this band. I'm gonna get a lighter color brown leather, I think. It'll look pretty good. This watch turned out great. I'm wearing it right now. It's very pretty. I'm pretty sure the dial's original, not been repainted. Couldn't find much information on it though. But it's still keeping good time. And like I said, if it doesn't start up and run good or has any issues, I'll try to fix that bead error. I may take the pallet back out and check to see if there's any damage on the face of it, but I don't think so. I didn't show oil in the pallet, but there were several things I didn't show on video just because I had a corrupted file. But thanks for watching. Uh, Catch me next time. I got a couple more really cool watches coming up. Thank you.